my husband is German, but he can't teach me German. Or maybe for you it's, my wife is German, so everyone assumes I should be fluent by now, but I'm still struggling. You would be surprised how often I hear this from German learners. And honestly, it makes complete sense. Having a German partner gives you access to German, yes, but it does not automatically give you a German teacher. So in today's video, we're going to talk about why your German spouse often can't teach you German, why they probably shouldn't be your main teacher, and most importantly, how you can still include them in your German language learning journey in a way that actually feels helpful and enjoyable for both of you. Because your partner can absolutely support you, but they don't need to become your grammar teacher at the dinner table. And if we haven't met yet, hallo und herzlich willkommen. My name is Salome and I specialize in helping total beginners go from zero knowledge to becoming confident and conversational in German. And over the years, I've worked with so many students who started learning German because of a German spouse, German in-laws, or relocation plans to Germany, Austria, or Switzerland. So I know the common struggles very well. I know how frustrating it can feel when your partner says, that just sounds wrong, but can't explain why. And I also know how much pressure it can put on the relationship when one person suddenly becomes the German teacher without ever really signing up for that role. So today I want to help you understand this better and show you how to turn your partner into a helpful support person in your learning journey. And if you want my help getting started properly, I have a free beginner training where I walk you through the most important foundations you need at the beginning. So pronunciation, daily life German, basic grammar structures, and how to start building sentences with confidence. If you want access to that free training, just comment "Get started" below and I'll send it to you. All right, now let's dive in. Let's start with the first important point. Just because someone speaks German fluently does not mean they can teach German. And this is true for every language. You speak English fluently, right? But could you explain every grammar rule in English to someone who is just starting from zero? Could you explain exactly why we say I am interested in German, but not I am interesting in German? Or could you explain every verb tense, every exception, every sentence pattern? Maybe yes, if you have a special interest in language, but most native speakers can't. And that's exactly what happens with German native speakers too. Most German native speakers can tell you, that sounds right, or no, we wouldn't say it like that. But when you ask why, the answer often is, I don't know why. That's just how we say it. And I know that can be incredibly frustrating as a learner because you don't want to just memorize random sentences. You want to understand the structure. You want to know why sometimes it's ich, sometimes it's mich, or sometimes it's mir. But your German spouse might look at you and think, I have no idea how to explain this, because they never learned German the way you are learning German. They acquired it as a child. They grew up hearing it every day. They copied patterns and they made mistakes. They were corrected naturally, and then later in school, they learned maybe some grammar labels. Most Germans have heard words like Nominativ, Akkusativ, Dativ, or Genitiv, but unless your partner studied linguistics, Latin, or just has a special interest in how language works, they probably cannot explain these concepts clearly. And here is the thing. German school is not designed to teach German as a foreign language. German school is designed for children who already speak German. So the grammar instruction German children receive is mostly about naming and analyzing something they already use naturally. So they learn the terms, they identify sentence parts, they analyze texts, but they are not learning German from scratch like an English native speaker would. That's a completely different process. So your partner learned about grammar years ago in primary school. And ask yourself, do you remember everything you learned in primary school? Probably not, and neither does your partner. So when they cannot explain why it's mit dem Auto and not mit das Auto, that does not mean they're not trying. It simply means knowing a language is not the same as knowing how to teach it. Now let's talk about the second part. Even if your partner could explain some German to you, that still does not necessarily mean they should be your main teacher. Because your partner is your partner. They're not your grammar coach, they're not your walking dictionary, and they are definitely not responsible for your German progress. I know that may sound a little direct, I am German after all, but this is such an important mindset shift. When you make your spouse responsible for your German progress, it can put a lot of pressure on the relationship. Imagine this, you're having breakfast together, you try to say something in German, your partner corrects your sentence structure, then your pronunciation, then suddenly you don't even want to finish your sentence anymore. Or maybe the opposite happens. You try to ask a grammar question and your partner gives you a vague answer. You feel frustrated, they feel like they're not helpful, and now instead of enjoying breakfast, both of you feel annoyed. That is not the kind of German learning environment you want, and it is also not the kind of relationship dynamic you want. There is also another layer here. Sometimes you simply want to talk to your partner. You want to talk about your day. You want to talk about your plans, about feelings, about something meaningful. And in the beginning stages of learning German, you may not have the words for those conversations yet. That's completely normal. But if you suddenly decide, from now on, we only speak German, that can become emotionally frustrating very fast because your relationship needs connection. And sometimes connection happens more naturally in the language where you can actually express yourself fully. So please don't think you have to force German into every single conversation with your partner. A much better approach is this. Your spouse should not be your teacher, your spouse should be your practice partner. And that is a completely different role. A teacher gives you structure, a teacher explains the rules, a teacher knows what to introduce first, what to leave for later, and how to correct mistakes without overwhelming you. A practice partner gives you real-life exposure. They can teach you useful words and phrases. They help you practice everyday situations. That is where your partner can be incredibly helpful. But if you expect them to build your entire German foundation for you, both of you will probably end up frustrated. So what should you do instead? The first step is build a proper foundation before expecting your partner to help you practice. Teaching someone from scratch is actually one of the hardest things to do, and that is why I specialize in absolute beginners. Because at the beginning, you don't just need more German, you need the right German in the right order. You need pronunciation foundation so people understand you. You need everyday phrases so you can function in real life. You need basic sentence patterns so you can start putting your own thoughts together. You need grammar explained in a way that makes sense. And you need a clear roadmap so you don't just jump between apps, random YouTube videos, and whatever your spouse happens to mention that day. Once you have that foundation, your partner becomes so much more helpful because now they're not just trying to teach you from scratch. They're helping you activate what you already know, and that is so much easier. So if you are at the very beginning and you want help building that foundation properly, comment "Get Started" below and I'll send you access to my free beginner workshop. Inside, I walk you through the first foundations step by step, from pronunciation to practical daily life German to basic grammar structure, so you can start learning with clarity instead of overwhelm. So comment "Get Started" below and I'll send you access to my free training. Now, once you have a foundation, the next step is to find a way to include your partner that feels light and helpful, not stressful. So here are a few tips that can make learning German with your partner so much easier. Tip number 1, let your partner help with words and phrases, not grammar explanations. Your partner can absolutely teach you useful words. They can tell you how something sounds naturally. They can give you examples of what they would say in real life. But don't expect them to explain every case ending, every article, every grammar exception. If you have a grammar question, write it down and bring it to your teacher, your course, or a reliable resource. That way, your partner doesn't feel like they constantly have to perform or explain something they may never have learned how to explain. Tip number 2, decide when feedback is actually helpful. Now, this is a big one. Some learners say, "Please correct me every time I make a mistake." But in reality, that can become exhausting very quickly. So instead, choose specific moments where feedback is welcome. So for example, you could say, "This week, I only want feedback on word order." Or, "When we practice for 10 minutes, please only correct my pronunciation." That makes feedback much more manageable. And tip number 3, ask for natural phrases instead of grammar lectures. Instead of asking, "Can you explain the dative case?" ask, "How would you say this naturally in German?" This uses your partner's real strength because native speakers are usually very good at giving natural phrases. They're not always good at explaining the grammar behind them. So let them help you in a way that is actually useful. And this next tip I've actually borrowed from one of my students that I'm sharing with you now, so shout out to Grace for this one. Tip number 4, create a shared phrase list from your real life. This can simply be a note on your phone, and it can include phrases that come up again and again in your day-to-day life. For example, phrases like Wo bist du? Or Ich bin gleich da. Wann essen wir zu Abend? Kannst du das nochmal sagen? And over time, you build a phrase bank that is directly connected to your actual life. And that is so much more useful than memorizing random vocabulary you may never use. Tip number 5, choose activities you already enjoy and do them in German. One of the easiest way to include your partner is to watch movies or shows in German together. So if you are still a beginner, you can watch with English subtitles so both of you can actually enjoy the story. And your goal is not to understand every single word. Your goal is to train yourself to catch keywords and phrases. So don't turn movie night into a grammar class. Keep it enjoyable. Another fun activity could be, for example, cooking together, if that's what you enjoy doing anyways. It's another wonderful way to practice where you can ask your partner about specific vocabulary, like for example, die Zwiebel, or der Knoblauch, die Kartoffel, die Pfanne. And here is my bonus tip. Don't stop at single words. Try to turn them into simple phrases. For example, kannst du mir bitte die Zwiebel geben? Or ich schneide die Kartoffeln. Or, das riecht gut. And one of my favorite ways to involve German partners and families is asking your partner to challenge you in a real life situations. Not in a perform for me way, but in a supportive way. Like ordering bread or coffee at the bakery or asking for the bill at the restaurant. These small daily life challenges build confidence so quickly. Inside my program, my students actually love these milestones. We do them regularly because they help students collect real evidence that they can use German in daily life. And that evidence matters because confidence does not come from waiting until you feel ready. Confidence comes from all of these small, successful experiences. One of my students, Leah, had exactly this kind of moment. She was with her German in-laws and they challenged her to order something at the butcher. She shared with us inside our community, Hallo Leute, I was challenged by my in-laws to buy in the Bäckerei and Metzgerei. That's why I am in Germany. I managed to buy in German and I kept it simple so I wouldn't encounter conversations that I was not ready for and so I can speak German all the way. They were very nice, maybe because they appreciated I was speaking German. My father-in-law told my mother-in-law that my pronunciation was good and that the lady understood everything I said. It felt very nice to be understood. Now, if you're listening to Leah's story and thinking that is exactly the kind of real life practice I need, then the best place to start is with my free beginner training. Just comment "Get Started" below and I'll send you access. Inside the training, we'll go over the foundations you need as a beginner, from German pronunciation to practical everyday phrases to the basic sentence structures that help you start speaking with more confidence. So if you want a clear starting point, instead of trying to figure it all out randomly, comment "Get Started" and I'll send you the free training. Another tip I really recommend is to create dedicated German time. This could be 10 minutes after dinner or a German walk or a Sunday morning coffee. During that time, you both know, okay, now we're practicing a little German. This is much better than trying to make every conversation in German. For example, during your German walk, you can describe what you see, like Ich sehe ein Auto or Das Haus ist schön. It may feel simple, but this is exactly how you build speaking confidence as a beginner. You start with simple sentences, then you repeat, then you expand. And slowly your brain gets used to producing German. Another very helpful tip is asking your partner for short voice notes. For example, if there's a phrase you need often, ask them to record it and send it to you. Maybe it's Ich hätte gern einen Termin or Könnten Sie das bitte wiederholen? Or Ich lerne noch Deutsch. Then you can listen to the phrase again and again, and this is a perfect way for your partner to help without having to explain anything. Now let's also quickly talk about what not to do. Please don't use your partner as Google Translate every 5 minutes, and please don't expect them to explain every grammar rule. Please also don't get annoyed when they say, I don't know why, it just sounds right. This is not really fair to them, and it is also not helpful for you. So the big mindset shift I want you to take away from this video is this. Your German spouse is not your teacher, but they are your bridge into real life. So if you are learning German because of your spouse, your in-laws, or because you're planning to relocate to Germany, Austria, or Switzerland, please know this. You're not behind. Your situation is actually very common, and you do not need to figure it out randomly. You just need a clear foundation first. And if you have found this video helpful, I recommend watching this lesson next, where I show you how to learn German the right way from scratch. Das ist alles für heute. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschüss!